All right, all right, all right. Hello, 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 and welcome, you wonderful, wonderful fellow citizens of the globe. It is a Tuesday night, and you are tuned in to KNR. It's radio according to you, and you're listening to This African Life. My name is Lungi Sonyakewa Onachia, and I'm so very happy to be with you on this wonderful but very, very cold weather. I am coming to you all the way from Cape Town. Thank you so very much for joining me. I am here with you every Tuesday and every Friday between 6 and 7. Yeah, so it's so nice to be here with you tonight. I had a few things that I wanted us to talk about, and but before we get going, I hope that you had a good start to your week. I know it's cold, it's hard to come out of the weekend and into the new week, but we've got to keep it moving. All right, so you heard their flavor with Game Changer doing the things as usual on This African Life. You know how we do. So yeah, today is actually World Population Day. It's something that I wanted us to talk about, and I want to start us off with that for our segment today of Today in African History. So today we are looking into World Population Day. It's a global event that is celebrated by nations across the globe on this day of the 11th of July every single year. It started all the way back in 1989 when the United Nations Development Programme's Governing Council decided to establish this day. So it stems from the buzz generated by the milestone that was reached just 2 years prior in 1987. So on July 11th of that year, our world's population actually soared to 5 billion people. Since then, each year we come together to commemorate this significant occasion with a different theme that actually places a particular focus on whatever issue is related to population. So it's a day where we reflect on our global population and its impact on our world. Do stay tuned for more about this year's theme. All right, so this year, with World Population Day, the demographic of nations around the globe is changing so much. And India and Africa have actually grown so much. With that rapid growth, those populations are actually contributing a lot to their development, but they're also facing challenges of climate change. So according to the United Nations, India now has 1.425 billion people and is expected to actually surpass China's population pretty soon. Africa, on the other hand, is the focus of much attention due to its status as the fastest growing and youngest population. So we've got about 70% of Africans that are under the age of 30, while many of the other developed nations are experiencing an aging population. So we can view the population growth in Africa as a positive outcome of improved public health, which has led to a decrease in child mortality. Also, the young population in Africa doesn't actually burden the economy with a large elderly population that relies heavily on taxes and pensions that are specifically designed for them. However, a challenge to development in Africa is that many African countries still rely on exporting raw natural resources instead of actually developing higher value finished products. So while sectors like mining, oil and gas and agriculture are important sources of revenue and employment, they have limited capacity to employ a large number of people. So this is a key obstacle that is faced by our African countries. Africa's Africa's youth will be crucial to its long-term security and prosperity, even in the face of climate change, because there is so much innovation coming through from the continent, particularly in the tech sector, with young people working on climate solutions within tech, so using tech solutions to actually combat the climate problem. So countries like Nigeria, Ghana, and Kenya are leading in this regard when it comes to those innovations, showing that the younger generation is more proactive in addressing climate-related challenges as compared to our leaders, like the older peeps. So yeah. Another thing that we're looking at when it comes to World Population Day for 2023 is its focus on women's equality and its connection to population dynamics. So the focus of this year's Population Day, World Population Day, is actually the role of women in population dynamics with a specific emphasis on their equality. We know that that is a very, very important thing because global population trends have changed so much throughout history. And there are projections that are indicating that there are further shifts and more changes that are coming in the decades that are coming. I think that one can't help but ask, will there be something like too many people in the future when we start to look at the population numbers? Or perhaps will there be some kind of sudden change that happens that causes some kind of population decline? We just don't know, but these all depend on factors like population momentum and increasing life expectancies that are obviously contributing to the ongoing population growth. So what population momentum actually refers to is the continued growth of a population even though the birth rate is declining, which is largely due to if you see large numbers of women who are of reproductive age in an area. So there are current projections that tell us that global population growth will continue, reaching around 8.5 billion in 2030, and 9.7 billion in 2050, and 10.9 billion in 2100. So you can imagine. I don't know if you've ever heard of things like population collapse, because people like Elon Musk actually have been quite vocal about their concerns regarding the declining birth rates and aging population in those Western countries, because it leads to a significant decrease in the overall population. But we know that these things are caused by more than just a lower birth rate. It's also things like urbanization. It's also things like increased access to education and obviously a more improved healthcare, because this all contributes to the lower fertility rates and higher life expectancy. So yeah, and then when we look at that actual role of the women when it comes to population growth, we know that women play a crucial role in population growth, because their economic and social rights actually impact fertility rates. So understanding the role of women in population dynamics is actually crucial for addressing those types of challenges. I know that they actually released data from sub-Saharan Africa that shows a negative correlation between women attaining education and the total fertility rate. So that's like higher levels of education are being associated with fewer children per woman. And this is also the case in the West. It's not just here. Because the fertility rate and the workforce participation all contribute to this, as women gain more education and they participate more in the workforce, so they're more career driven. They often choose to have fewer children or delay having children. So, yeah, these are the things I wanted us to talk about a little bit, just considering that today we are commemorating this day. But of course, it's also very important for us to acknowledge that there are other drivers, behind the global population changes, cultural shifts, economics is a big one. Economic factors are a big deal. But it's also important that we focus on the role of women in particular, because there's a need for collective efforts to actually address any other challenges that are linked to the population. Right. So, yeah, I want us to actually listen to something. Let me see if I can play it for you right quick. And this was released by the United Nations Population Fund. Just take a listen to their message on World Population Day.
World Population Day reminds us that we can achieve a better future if we harness the power of every human being on the planet. Imagine a world of 8 billion people with infinite possibilities, one upholding rights and choices for all. The reality is, though, that 4 billion have been left out because they are women and girls. Over 40% of women cannot make their own decisions about having children. Most people hold biases against women, such as thinking men make better leaders. Gender discrimination denies rights and squanders potential, while gender equality leads to happier, healthier individuals, families, and nations. Gender equality leads to more resilient societies and stronger economies. In every nation, the real wealth is the people. That means all people, not half. UNFPA stands with all 8 billion people to claim their rights and choices, leading us to a more equal, prosperous, and sustainable future for everyone.
Cool. As I said there, that was the message coming through from that, from the United Nations Population Fund. I'm actually seeing a question coming through. I'm just trying to figure out the name quickly. Somebody's asking, how does a sober-minded government balance population growth and its economic growth? I actually wish that we had people who are in the right positions to be able to give us all of these answers. But I mean, I imagine that a bigger population probably means that there is a workforce that's big. It means that that will contribute to some kind of economic growth. It will probably also encourage competition and so on. So how a government actually does that and implements those kinds of things and balance it out, I guess, is a conversation on its own that we should probably have with those relevant parties. But thank you so much for your contribution there. What do you think is the answer? Can you tell us? Is it Hamza? Hamza, please tell us. What do you think? What are your thoughts? What is the answer to your question? I've given you mine briefly. You can tell us a little bit what you think. So yeah, the time is like we're 10 minutes away from 7 o'clock. And yeah, we've been just talking about World Population Day, looking at the numbers, looking at the fact that it's focused on women this year as the theme, and also looking at our continent, Africa, being actually the youngest continent, biggest youth in terms of numbers. So meaning that there's obviously a lot of growth potential within the continent. So yeah, as we actually wrap up this segment on World Population Day, let's take a moment to actually to discuss and think about with each other the challenges that women and girls face when it comes to realizing their rights, and achieving gender equality. So it's clear that access to education, health, and economic opportunities do play a crucial role in empowering women and contributing positively to their families, communities, and societies as a whole. But unfortunately, even with the progress that we've made, there are still significant obstacles in the paths of women. So one of the major issues in that pursuit of gender equality is that gender pay gap that exists. It's so disheartening to see that how often women are paid less than their male counterparts for doing the exact same jobs. Many women also find themselves trapped in low-paying jobs with very little job security, just kind of preventing them from also being able to reach their full potential and actually gaining economic independence. So, but also the financial aspects of it is not the worst. You know, there is even more on top of that burdensome aspect. We also have the alarming rates of violence and harassment that women endure in both their professional and personal lives. We know that because we see those kinds of reports almost on a daily basis. It's something that we just can't overlook it, you know. Yeah, it's quite hectic. Nobody should have to live in fear or face such mistreatment, you know. But women continue to bear this kind of burden and be the brunt of this kind of injustice. Yeah, Hamza saying good evening to everybody. Good evening back to you. How are you doing? Where are you chatting to us from? To tell us. Yeah, so I do encourage us to all continue to strive for a future where gender equality is not just some kind of aspiration, but also a reality for all, you know. And with that, we conclude our little chit chat for today on this day that we are celebrating or looking at World Population Day 2023. I hope that our discussion has brought us one step closer to a world where women and girls can also flourish unhindered. Do continue to have those kinds of conversations, you wonderful, wonderful citizens of the globe. I always say that whenever you've tuned in, whenever you've listened to This African Life, I hope that you can take away something that will inspire more conversations within your circles, that will inspire ideas within you so that you can contribute to the growth of Africa and its people. And with that, I bid you farewell and I say to you good night. I will be back here on Friday between 6 and 7 on the dot, and we can gather here and have more conversations that will help us to move forward as a continent and as a people. Look after one another, love one another, and remember to always celebrate yourselves. My name is Lungi Sonyachawa Onachia, and this is Good Night.